Herman Melville meets Harold Pinter meets Nosferatu meets The Shining. What movie could I possibly be talking about? I am, of course, talking about Lighthouse, the new movie from Robert Eggers, writer director of The Witch, and welcome back to Kubrick Corner, in which I'm here to talk about what is a very, very highly anticipated movie in which I had the pleasure of seeing just recently. So no doubt you've heard about this very, very ambitious new project from Eggers, who back in 2016, The Witch came out in the UK, having stunned at the Sundance Film Festival, and then subsequently stunned audiences all over the world. Very authentic dialogue, great performances, story of like religious mania crossed with possible supernatural activity. Lovely, ambiguous movie. Yet another success from the denizens of such things, A24. They've really emerged as a distributor who are like an indie powerhouse, and now they return. A24 returns back Eggers' new movie, The Lighthouse, which significantly is shot in black and white on 35mm film in a 1:19:1 aspect ratio. So basically a very restrictive, tall aspect ratio, which, in the words of the director, is meant to evoke the time in early cinema from where we had the transition from silent to sound, or talkies as they were known at the time. So this aspect ratio is designed to evoke a very, very specific time and place in cinema, and what that does is the aesthetic immediately grounds you in a love of cinema and an awareness of classic cinema, which is one of the many, many wonderful things about this movie. But first, the plot. I'm going to try not to give too much away here, because I think the trailer actually does a very, very good job of not giving anything away, so I'll be as general as I can. The basic gist of it is that if you're familiar with the British TV series Step Turned Son, I'm not the first reviewer to make this comparison, by the way, in which you have old man, young man British comedy series constantly getting on each other's nerves. You kind of apply that to a sort of psychological drama horror context, and stick the two of them in a lighthouse, and you've got an idea of what The Lighthouse kind of is. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are two warring lighthouse keepers, or wickies, in the early 19th century in an undisclosed area, although the movie was shot in Nova Scotia in apparently horrendous conditions, and you can see that in the film itself. The movie is very clever not to pinpoint too much where the action is taking place. The accents by both actors kind of vary between this kind of strange New Englandy / island / West Country mix, and what the dialogue that they're delivering is very, very, as with The Witch, very, very authentic, very period driven, to the extent that it can actually be sometimes quite hard to follow and to pick up with. It's loaded so full of old euphemistic terminology, particularly nautical terminology. When you have that combined with this kind of like pounding score from Mark Corban that's very, very reminiscent of his work on The Witch, with the brilliant sound design, it can be almost like a deliberate battle to try and understand what the characters are saying to each other. And this is actually a very, very dialogue-driven movie. Although it evokes silent cinema, it's very much this is a movie that is in love with language. It's in love with the physicality of the two actors, and I think actually this is where the movie's greatest strength is. What you have in the form of Willem Dafoe plays Wake, who is how can I best describe him? Almost like Lon Chaney meets Father Jack from Father Ted, maybe with a bit of Captain Birdseye thrown in. I mean, he's got brilliantly piercing features, which is tailor-made for this kind of theatrical presentation. But he is a man who is, sort of embalmed in his job, who is completely secure in his job and in his maritime superstitions. He lectures Robert Pattinson, who is obviously the younger man, about how you don't want to quarrel with a seagull because but seabirds apparently contain the spirits of dead sailors. It's like it's bad luck not to toast a fellow crew member on your first night when they turn up in the lighthouse. He is utterly ensconced in this sort of salty, windswept, wave-swept sort of maritime nautical superstition, and so that comes through in Defoe's dialect and his accent, and also the physicality of the performance, that he's got a beard, like what he's wearing, all comes through brilliantly. Robert Pattinson, on the other hand, who I think is the real sensation in this film. Defoe is excellent, Pattinson is the sensation. physically is completely different. He's kind of hunched over, he's furtive, he very rarely makes eye contact with Willem Dafoe unless he's actually coerced into talking. He's nervous, he's furtive, he may be harbouring secrets in his past, which Willem Dafoe is kind of keen to get towards. And that physicality, the contrasting physicality between the two actors, gives the film the dramatic weight that it's striving for. I came out of this film initially thinking, in terms of its formal style, it's a movie like 1917, Oddly Love. This is a movie that flaunts its visual aesthetic and its technique very, very well. But I was kind of thinking, okay, is there actually anything behind that? Because with The Witch, it was clear that The Witch was a very, very intelligent movie and had an awful lot to say about 17th century superstition and colonialism. And I came out of Lighthouse thinking, does that have as much to say about its period and about its characters as The Witch does? And I've sat on it for a couple of days, and I had to say I do think The Lighthouse does. I think it locates that very, very brilliant dueling physicality between the two actors, and it is a psychodrama. I think the movie is being marketed as a horror. I don't think it is a horror in the strictest sense of the word. I mean, I wasn't particularly scared in the film. What the movie is, it's like being hit in the face with a force 10 gale. It's very intense, very paranoid, very stylish. It kind of doesn't let up. Again, the combination of the acting, the sound design, the visuals is kind of sort of basically batter you into submission. And at the end, you are left with that wonderful stream of ambiguity as to what it all actually meant. It's clearly been impeccably well researched from Robert Eggers. I mean, we kind of knew this from The Witch. With The Witch, he derived a lot of the dialogue from actual period authentic sources from the time, and he's done the same here. There is a credit to Herman Melville at the end. Apparently, a lot of the dialogue that the actors take part in this owes itself to Herman Melville. It's a really, really really interesting film. Again, I wouldn't say it's a horror film. I'd say it's a psychodrama. Again, going back to my comparison with The Shining at the very start of the movie, the Lighthouse plays around very, very cleverly with expectations of time. There's the line in the trailer. It's like, how long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks? 2 days? Allow me to recollect. Like that. That's my bad impression of Willem Dafoe's accent. But in The Shining, you were never sure how long Jack Nicholson and his family were meant to have been in that hotel, and the similar kind of ambiguity underlines this, which again serves to make the movie unsettling and paranoid, if not necessarily scary in the strictest sense of the word. The movie is also very funny. I mean, there's more than one fart joke in it. It is a movie that is in love with language, and it is in love with this kind of salty vernacular that these two characters spit at each other with incredible venom, and some of the insults in it, some of the best insults I've heard in a very long time. I mean, one can practically see the sea salt encrusting the edge of the frame as you're watching. I mean, it's a movie that is so immersed in a wonderfully authentic sense of atmosphere. You can smell what's going on, you can smell the environment, and indeed as the story goes on, the production design deserves a credit, because the production design becomes progressively more fetid and cluttered and dirty, and you can practically breathe the stink of the characters and their environment. And it's a really tactile movie, again, despite the deliberate aesthetic limitations that have been put on it. I think Robert Eggers is a fantastic director. I mean, with this and The Witch under his belt, we've got a really exciting filmmaker ahead of us here who can surely only go on to bigger and even better things, if that is indeed possible. It's called The Lighthouse. I would say go and see it if you're, the slightest bit interested in cinema and the history of cinema. Anyone who's remotely sceptical at Robert Pattinson in particular, go and see this and try not to get excited about the fact that he's our new Batman. He's really, really good in this. It's out in the UK on the 31st of January, and drop me a comment here at Kubrick Corner with your thoughts once you've seen it. I'll see you soon. Bye.